Hey, what's up you guys? It's the Curious Owl here, and today I am announcing the next round of Battle of the Bookish. So if you are new to my channel and you do not know what Battle of the Bookish is, it is a biannual readathon that I host with some friends that I have made on YouTube, Liv and Adri. These are my oldest booktube friends, and I have enjoyed doing this readathon every single time. We have so much fun with this, and we love the community that we have built within this sphere. It has been so much fun, and every round seems to get better and better as time goes on. If you were a part of our skills training camp and it was brand new to you, this is the month-long readathon where it is a full-out book battle. We have three teams who are going to be pitting it up against each other in terms of earning the most amount of points. Then that point value will then be averaged for the amount of players on each of the teams to then see who possibly has the best team in terms of reading and getting points for those books that they read. So for anybody that is new, this is going to be a video that is going to go over all of the rules and regulations and things to know about the readathon. And for those of you that have been around for a while, this will just be a really nice refresher. And we will also be going over the prompts that will be involved for the readathon for this time, because every readathon for the team prompts, we actually change it up depending on the theme that there is involved. This round's theme is going to be in line with our skills training camp that we did in October, which is all centered around literary detectives, namely Sherlock Holmes, Hercule Poirot, and Harry Dresden. For our skills training camp that we did in October, the team that had won is going to have an advantage on the other teams by having 200 points total to start off with the readathon, which can make or break how the main readathon goes. So for those of you that are new, how does the readathon work? Well, the most important thing to know is that any book you read in the course of the month is going to count for points, because we basically count the most amount of points on our page points, meaning that based on the amount of pages that your book is, you will earn so many points for that. You can earn additional points if you do complete any of our general prompts or our team prompts that will have a certain ascribed number no matter how big your book is. As long as it fits one of the prompts, it will earn a set amount of points, and then you just earn the extra points for your page points based on how long the book you actually read is. So here I'm going to list all of the point values for the different size books that you can read. This is the most important thing to know, but all of this information will also be listed on our Instagram and our Discord, as well as hopefully our TikTok when we can get that up and running. But all of this information in this video will be on those platforms as well, so do be sure to check those out to get all the information that you need. But in terms of the page counts, the most important thing to know is that if your book is within a certain range of pages, it will earn so many points. Say, for instance, you decide that you're going to read The Daughter of Dr. Moreau by Silvia Moreno Garcia for a book, and it doesn't have any prompts associated with it. The book that I have currently is 306 pages of actual content. Now, this can be dependent on what is listed on Goodreads. If you have a certain version, like the Kindle version or a paperback or a hardcover, those versions will have different page counts usually. So you usually want to check what copy you actually have and compare that to what is on Goodreads to make sure you have the most accurate page count for your book. But because this one is about 306 pages, this would fall under, I think, the 50-point benchmark. I'll mark it here if that's not the case, but this will count for about 50 points. If you have read this to fulfill a certain general prompt, that would earn it an additional 50 points, making this 100 points total. Now, if I actually had decided to read this for one of my team prompts, this would have 100 points added to it because the team prompts are worth more points, which I will get into in a minute. But the most important thing to know is that if I had read this for a team prompt, then this would be 150 points as opposed to just 100 points flat out. Another thing to note is that audiobooks 100% count in this, as well as graphic novels, comics, any book that there is available that you have access to, it will count. You can literally read children's books and it will count for points. So now let's get into the nitty-gritty of some other details, the first of which being, when is the readathon this year? Now typically, for those of you that are new, we do host this 2 times a year. We always host a round in January and in June. So this time, the next round is going to be over the course of January 2023, starting at January 1st at midnight, going to January 31st at 11:59 p.m. in your time zone. So wherever you are in the world, just make sure that from those days it is in your time zone, midnight to 11:59 on those respective days. So how do you get involved in the readathon if you're brand new? Well, by joining our Discord, you will have access to all the information that we have, as well as being able to pick your team. Like I said, the 3 teams that we have are Team Hercule Poirot, Sherlock Holmes, and Harry Dresden. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that when you join our Discord and pick a team, that is the team you are set with the entire readathon. You are not able to hop teams partway through the month. Now, let's get into some other things. So the first thing is we're going to go over the general prompts for the month. Now, every team has access to these. These are not team specific. These are able to be used at any point in time over the course of the readathon. They are pretty much up for grabs all month long. The one thing to keep in mind is we are not doubling up because of the fact that we have a maximum 10 prompts that are set in stone for teams, and then additional prompts can be completed if you are so brave to do so, which I'll get into in a minute. But the most important thing is that these general prompts are available for everybody. So these are pretty standard from readathon to readathon. We don't really change these because these are the easiest for a lot of people in terms of reading things to get involved with. However, if you ever have suggestions for prompts to use in the future, we would greatly appreciate them, and we do have a Google survey that we ask everyone to fill out at the end of the readathon to let us know if there's been any additional things that they want us to involve in. And if you have any suggestions for prompts, feel free to let me know in the comments below, and we will try to implement them in future rounds. General prompts that we have start off with to read an LGBTQ+ book. Now, this can be reading from an own voices author that is on the LGBTQ spectrum. This could be a book that has characters that are on this spectrum. It really doesn't matter as long as it somehow discusses or is written by somebody that is LGBTQ. Next one is really simple, and that is just to read a book. There are so many times that we have people who can't find a book that fits one of their specific team prompts, and they just decide, I'm just going to use this for the read a book prompt because I read it, it's easy. And honestly, a lot of people get this one done first things first, because if they read nothing else in the month, they at least know they can have this one count for the read a book prompt. The next prompt is to read a TBR veteran. Now, a TBR veteran to us is something that you have had on your shelves or in your mind in terms of things that you wanted to read for at least a year. The next is to read a book with pictures. Now, this can pretty much be anything from a children's book to comic, graphic novel, a fantasy book that has images like a map or schematics of some kind. Like, this is pretty broad, so as long as your book has images or pictures in it, this will count. And the last general prompt is to reread a favorite. This is a very popular one for many of our people that are participating, because rereading favorites is like just the nicest way to, take care of yourself. Reading something cozy, something fun that you kind of know the story a little bit. Now, all of the general prompts are worth 50 points each. So depending on the size of your book, you get to add an additional set 50 points for any of the books that you decide to read for a general prompt. Now let's move on to the individual team prompts. So the team prompts are 5 prompts for each team that you are only able to read if you are a part of that team. So Team Sherlock reads the Team Sherlock prompts. Team Hercule Poirot reads the Team Hercule Poirot prompts. Say that 5 times fast and not trip over your tongue like I did. And Team Harry Dresden only reads the Team Harry Dresden prompts. However, there is a caveat to that. Because if you do complete all 5 of your team prompts, you do have the ability to read any of the other team prompts that there are. It doesn't matter if you hop from one team to the next, or if you read all of one team's and then all of the others. As long as you have completed your team prompts first, all 5 of them, you have the ability then to go and hop to another team and get points off of their prompts. Team prompts are each 100 points each, as opposed to the general prompts being worth 50. So depending on the page count that you have of your book, you get to add on an additional 100 points for the book if you complete it for one of the team prompts. So first things first, we're going to go over my team, which is Team Harry Dresden. Now, Harry Dresden is a little bit more of a fantasy mystery thriller because there's a lot of magic involved in the stories, apparently, because I've never read them myself, but we did some research on it, and apparently there's a lot of magic in this series. But for Team Harry Dresden, we have Kaboom Magic to start off with, which is to read a book with a magic system. Next, we have Young Magician, which is to read a middle grade novel, because apparently Harry Dresden was like 10 years old when his magic first kind of came to him. Next is Winter Night's Mantle, which is to read a graphic novel. A Blue VW Beetle, which is to read a book where the characters travel. It could be a hero's journey kind of thing with a fantasy. It could literally be a contemporary where people are just going on a road trip or flying to a different country. It has to involve travel somehow. And the last prompt is Stormfront, which is to read a book that is the first in a series, because Stormfront is the name of the first book in the Harry Dresden Files. Now for Team Sherlock, we have the prompt Deerstalker, which is the name of the hat that apparently Sherlock wears all the time in the books. And this is to read a book with a lot of different fan art, because a lot of times people who create the fan art of characters can sometimes look way different than how the characters are described or how I think most people would think of certain characters. The next prompt is Violin, which is to read a book featuring music either in the story itself or in the title. If it's a lyric to a song that's well known, or it involves something to do with music in the title, this would work. Next is a Pipe, which is to read a book where a main character has a bad habit. So smoking, drinking, drugs, biting their nails, whatever bad habit you really associate as being a bad habit, this would count. Next is Watson, which is to read a book with a lovable side character, because we all love Watson. Watson is the best side character, I think, of all time. And finally, the last prompt for Team Sherlock is A Study in Scarlet, which is the name of the first book in the Sherlock Holmes stories, which is to read a book with red on the cover. And finally, for Team Hercule Poirot, we have the first prompt, which is Mustache, which is to read a book with a character that has some form of facial hair mentioned. This is eccentricities, because Hercule Poirot is constantly being told that he has eccentricities about him. And this is to read a book that has kind of an odd duck character, somebody that's a little bit off their lid. Next is An Outside Perspective, which is to read a book from a non-traditional narrator. Now, this can extend to a lot of different things. If you read the Illuminate Files by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman, this is a very non-traditional narration because this is told all through case files and dossiers and all that stuff. Also, if you have a character who is kind of more ethereal, like The Book Thief by Marcus Suzak, that we see the perspective of death, watching the story of what's going on in The Book Thief, that counts. If you have a second person point of view story, that also counts. I do believe that N.K. Jemisin's Broken Earth trilogy plays on that a little bit. Next is a boutonniere, because Hercule's always wearing a boutonniere, and this is to read a book with flowers on the cover. And the final prompt is the title of the first book in the Hercule Poirot mysteries, which is called The Mysterious Affair at Styles. And for this, we're asking you to read a book that features either a castle or estate, mansion, something to that effect. So one thing that we wanted to mention too is how you exactly submit your points for the readathon. Now, typically how we do it is you submit to your team on Discord. There is in each team channel a spot where you are able to submit your points under the channel of Point Redemption. Basically what you'll want to do is make sure that you have the title of your book, the author of the book, as well as how many pages that counts for. If this is also a book that you are completing for any of the general or team prompts, you do need to make sure that you list that within that entry. So if it's counting for the read a book prompt, make sure that you tell us that it's for the read a book prompt. If you are reading a book for one of Hercule Poirot's prompts, so say the boutonniere one, make sure that you write boutonniere for your prompt. So how is the winner determined for these readathons? Well, if you're new, it's based on actually point averages. So depending on how many people are slated for each team, because it is possible we have one team that is bigger than another, we do base everything on averages to try to make it as fair as possible. So essentially when you submit your points for your book, it will go into a spreadsheet that then tallies up your total team points, and then that total is divided by however many people are on your team. So do choose wisely, because if you get onto a team that has a lot of people, it is entirely possible that the average could go down because there's more people that are cutting into the total amount of points. Now the winning team actually for the big rounds are the people that get to pick the theme for the next round, which is very exciting. They get the ability to say what theme we get to go with, which makes it really difficult sometimes on us battle masters because of the fact that we have to then come up with the prompts that fit that theme and work best with it. So y'all get to basically decide what ends up happening in terms of the readathon. And then we are also going to try to have sprints on YouTube through my channel and hopefully Adri's channel as well, as much as we possibly can. Maybe Liv's channel too, since Liv has actually started up her own YouTube channel. But, you know, we'll kind of see. It'll be touch and go. You guys will know when we decide to go live in our Discord and on our Instagram. So be sure to follow us on those, because that's basically where you're going to find all of the information you're going to need to know. But without further ado, that is all I have in terms of this announcement for Battle of the Bookish. I'm so excited for this round, especially after how the skills training camp went. This is going to be so much more fun. I cannot wait. So thank you guys so much for joining me in this video. If you're excited and have any other questions for me, please feel free to let me know in the comments below. I would greatly appreciate it if you guys would spread the word about this readathon as well. We want to try to get more people involved in it if we can. So spread the word to your friends, your family, your dog, your grandparents. I don't freaking care. Just spread the word to any person out there that wants to read and be involved in a competitive kind of competition. So yeah, but thank you all so much for joining me in this video. If you guys did enjoy it, please do give it a big thumbs up. And if you haven't already and you'd like to be and would like to see more content like this, go ahead and hit that button down below and subscribe to become an ally in our flock. And I will see all of you guys in my next video. Bye guys!